Good morning, everybody. My name's Nate Moore. This is Scott Stingle. We are members of the application team here at Melco. We are unintentionally wearing the same color this morning. I did not know that. We did not call each other when we got dressed, but it just happened.
It's men in blue.
So this morning, we're going to be talking about patches and how to create your own, how to utilize blank patches that are ready-made. And so you can sew whatever you want on these, buy them blank, sew them, and then have them already done for your customers. Scott will be covering that. And then if you want a little more custom, a little more bespoke, we can create our own from scratch. We can't do the exact edge that those are, but we can mimic them and do custom shapes, custom whatever, and make little charms, little patches, little whatever. So Scott's going to look at how to create, set up, and do files for the ready-made patches, and where to get them?
Yep.
Yeah,
yep.
okay.
We're going to share sources with you also.
Cool.
All right, so this is a technique I used to use when I had a production shop in Boulder. Worked great. First of all, patches, they have a special edge. This is called a merrowed edge, and it is created with a machine that has 3 needles called a merrow machine. And the machine actually cuts the fabric and stitches the edge all in one operation.
It's kind of like an Uber overlock machine.
Yeah, you got to know what you're doing to feed in, because if you hiccup, you get a big blob, from what I hear. I've never done it. If you don't have this machine, and most people don't, you can buy pre-made patches, as Nate says. These are about $1 a piece, a bunch of different places. I'm going to put up a link for where you can get them from Enmart, which is part of Ensign Emblem, place that of course does nothing but patches, something like 10,000 a day they do.
I'm not doing that
Mike
many.
was saying. I know.
I'm not doing that many.
So, you know, you can, Nate will show you how to simulate this border with our machine, but just know that you can buy blank patches already finished in a whole host of different shapes. They have, this is called R1, this is called R2. There is circles, there are different shapes that you can purchase.
What was the bridgey shape?
Oh yeah,
rocker. I'm like, I don't know what that is, and he had to look it up for me.
Like a top arc that you would put, you know, sergeant or something like that in. Anyway, okay, so this is what we used to use when I had the store in Boulder, and it worked terrific.
Sticky.
Yeah, this is sticky. It's sticking to itself. I left it overnight, of course.
I'm gonna go top down so you can see a little bit what we're doing. This, by the way, is what my table unfortunately looks like when I've got a lot of things going on.
For today.
Drives Scott crazy.
All right, so I should stick down the double-sided tape a little bit better, but you'll get the idea. Okay, so top down.
Yeah,
so
you're
we
good.
got this. I don't know if you can see.
I'm gonna move that out of the way. There we go.
What we have is a piece of 3-ounce cutaway, and larger than the hoop. And I cut out a window where the embroidery will go, because I want to keep using this cutaway and just keep sticking patches to it one after another. So we cut out a window where the embroidery is going to go, and then we put carpet tape, which is double-sided tape, around the edges. This can be purchased at, Home Depot, yeah, all over the place. Yeah, online. They have usually 3 different versions of it. There's a cheesy version, which you don't want the cheapest version. The medium version is what I recommend. The aggressive version sometimes will pull apart the garment or the patch or whatever when you pull it off.
Whatever.
And that's not the point. So I would save this and put it in a file or something like that. And if you're going to do these on a regular basis, you just pull this out, put it back in a hoop. And you notice that I've drawn, if you could show the top down,
sorry,
maybe.
yeah.
You draw the shape, the outline of the garment, in this case a patch, on here so that you know where to put it. And you usually even do this while it's in the machine. You could do frame out at the beginning and at the end in OS so that it comes out to you. And then you just place this right over your lines and line it all up. stick it down, and put it in the machine, and then you've got your design already set to sew in here.
And two things. One, this, if I were watching where you guys are and I hadn't seen these patches up close and feeling them, I would be very, very nervous, because now you're doing things that I tell everybody not to do. You're sewing without backing.
Yes.
Not really. If you were to be able to feel this, there is a bit more structure in here than it looks like. And then there's some heat-sensitive adhesive
Yes.
on the outside of it. So you're not going to see it as much, but there is that structure in there, so don't stress about that.
And titanium needles would be a good choice.
Coated, because
Slippery,
I don't,
yes.
I don't want that gumming up the works. And then the other thing is, and I'm sorry if I'm skipping around on you a little bit, I've seen you use this same technique to do, like, I don't have a collar on. I was going to show you the corner of a collar, or the end of a tie, or something like that.
Can't be hooped. So I might have mentioned this in another one. These are all
this is blurring together.
We used to do about 50, 75 ties every 6 months. And they were black ties for a delivery company, and it was a little silhouette, a white silhouette of an eagle that was on the bottom of the tie. Well, ties change, I know, based on popularity, but in this
60s, 70s
day and age, they were pretty thin, so there wasn't any way to hoop it. Fast frames would be an option, but you're sewing through the backing for there, which is sticky. This avoids that. So we used to draw the tie on the cutaway, cut a window out, and just leave it in the machine, like I said, bring them around, stick them down, sew them, pull it off, next one, next one, next one. We could do about 30, 40 ties before we had to replace the carpet tape before it would wear out.
Eventually, you get enough lint and anti-goo.
Yeah, just understand, I mean, like the tie was multiple layers, and so it slides around. So a silhouette or something lettering, something simple would be what
you're not hooping it, so you don't have the stability of all the edges being caught. If you had something like that, you could help yourself a little bit with my favorite embroidery tool. Masking tape.
So good.
All right, so I'm sorry. Just wanted to let you know that this technique actually transfers to other things other than patches, but.
Yeah, I mean, so you could use the design cue. You guys can figure out how to rapidly blast these through these on the machine. Okay, so if you're setting up for a little higher production, this is how I would do it. Let's
do top down, yeah?
Top down, yeah.
That is a very large hoop and very thin. Yeah. There we go.
So the way that this is done, this is just tearaway backing. Thicker tearaway would be better. And what the job that I made up would be to sew the same R2 patches and put names on each one. Maybe I have 50 patches, 100 patches to do with individual names.
And R2 is one of the sizes of those funny rectangle standard patch size things.
2.5 by 4.5. Yeah, 2 by 4.5. I think
they all sound like Star Wars droids too.
Okay, and so it would be worth, if you're going to do this on a regular basis, it would be worth taking time to make an OFM file of this that you could use repeatedly. So different ways to set this up. I used the walk stitch, normal input tool, along with the rectangular shape.
Automatic rectangle input.
Yeah. So basically I pick walk stitch, then I pick the rectangle input, and I draw the size that I want, which is the same size as the patch. And then you can either duplicate or you can use step and repeat to generate your template places.
You want that?
Yeah, let's go over to here. Okay, so here you can see that I made the boxes like I told you, and I choose to make a quick crisscross so I know exactly where the origin of the patch is, just when I'm looking over and whatnot.
It's a nice way to find center.
The orange lines, hey, this is orange and blue like the Broncos. It's almost football time.
Wow.
All right. So it's not going to sew, in other words, the vector lines. So I would set up 2 separate files, one that had all the boxes like you saw in the overhead view here, and sew that out. Then I know where to put my patches. So switch to the overhead, I guess.
Oh, sorry, I guessed wrong.
So what we would do is, instead of spraying the hoop, because you're going to get your hoop full of the glue, I think it's better to move aside, box, trash can, whatever you have, put a little bit of this spray.
Far away from your machines.
From away from the machine.
Far away from your computers. Far away from your nifty camera equipment.
Right, and then I'm going to stick them all in place. And if I'm doing production, it could be good to have 2 of these, right? You're working on one
setting up while you do the other one?
Yeah,
I agree.
So go with that. So then, once I have all the patches stuck in place, I would come up with, if you're going to do logos, boy, you could do a whole lot of different things with this. You can use group names with step and repeat to generate the names. So kind of the way that works is, I'll switch to another project here. So your name's popular today.
I am apparently a narcissist.
Okay, so we have our name set up. We've got underlay, lock stitches, whatever, exactly how you want them all to be property-wise. Then I go, if you have this feature, object, and then I go to step and repeat. And you can see here that it's 1. I want this number of columns to be 2, number of rows to be 4. The distance between is 5.5. That's left to right, and then up and down is 3.5.
Now that's because that's the file that he set up. You may have different spacing depending on what you're doing. You'll just have to measure and figure that out.
And there's 2 ways to do it. You can go with the spacing between, or you can go at the center, the origin of each.
And for application like this, where the designs are all going to change dimensions, like every name is not going to be the same, I would do center. That way they're all placed in the middle of whatever you're planning on doing.
Exactly.
Whoa, zoom out.
I know. I don't have my hotkeys on here.
Sorry, this is...
Okay, so, and then this shows you how the names would sew. So let me see, what we did here was first, let me undo this. Go to properties, and we went to group names. I didn't show you this part. So we enabled it, we came up with the names we want, we added them to the list, and that's how we generate the group names part of it.
And there are videos just on group names.
Yeah, this is an excellent way to do this, but you can read about that or watch a video on that. And then we pop this in, and we just sew all of them, pull them out, put the next one in, different names.
Different set of names, and go.
Keep hammering. You could do, like I say, a logo and different names, sports teams, all that kind of stuff, whatever. And hopefully this helps you out. So you'd need a piece of tearaway with each one. But it's a fast way, and everyone comes up centered. Really, really good.
That's awesome. And you're posted a link?
I'm going to post a link when Nate gets talking here.
Sorry.
Mike's traveling. We're shorthanded here. So I'm going to post a link to, there's a place called Enmart, like I said, Ensign Emblem in Michigan. Sells good quality stuff. They sell patches. They're about $1 a piece. So really good. Also, you know, you have to decide if stuff is really weird shapes and very complex, or you got a gigantic order. Sometimes it's worth just jobbing out the whole patch order, marking it up, making a little bit on it.
A little markup with a little less effort's not always a bad thing.
And you move on to a different task, because there's places that are just experts in making patches. And some of what we see coming out of foreign countries, it's like $2, $2.50 a patch, 50 patches, no setup charge, 3-week turnaround. That's a pretty good deal for like funky shapes that have banner outlines, and the whole thing is not anywhere close to a common shape. So I'll post those while Nate works on the.
Unless you want to make your own.
Next one. Yeah, unless you want to make your own.
Unless you want to make your own.
So the way we used to do it, because we used to run like 7,000, 8,000 patches a year for a company. And so we would do the repeat pattern, and it would have the logo in the center, and then it would do a walk stitch like this is, but it's slightly more, it's inside, it's going to be covered by that edge.
Yeah, yeah.
And then the Merrow machine would actually cut the excess out and stitch the edge out. But we would job that out, right? Merrow machines, $3,000, I think, something like that.
Plus the time doing it.
And the time and the education. And so there are places that will just finish the patches for you. And we used to send them like a sheet like this done, and then we would get back the finished merrowed edge cut and heat seal backing applied also.
Hey.
All
Somebody pasted the link already, and it wasn't you and it wasn't me.
Good. Mike?
I don't know. It might be Mike, maybe Dan. I don't know. All right. So that is definitely one way to do it. And that's, you've got all those blanks already done, and you can get them. I don't think we mentioned you can get them in different colors. Please watch your back. There's a heat press right behind him, and I'm stressing out about it. Different colors, different sizes, different whatevers. But if you want to make your own, different shapes, lower quantity, not worth sending it out, you've got that option too. And we're not going to be able to do the merrowed edge, but we can mimic it with a satin stitch, which is what I tend to do. Maybe Dan. Sorry. Reading comments as I go is always distracting for me. Other things, even though I said it's distracting, if you have questions, please chat them in, and we'll try to do our best to answer them. So the way that I create my own, and I've got these little emoji patch-like backpack charms here right now. The way that I create them is like a delayed application for me. What I will typically do is design my design however I want it, whatever shape I want, and then have a walk stitch that goes around it, and I will sew that out, and then I will go cut that out, and if I have a bunch of them, I will probably do it at home, not at work, cutting it out when I'm in front of the TV watching Princess Bride for the 322nd time. And then I'll come back in, I'll have all of those, and then I will begin appliquing them to, honestly, I use this clear vinyl. And I know other people have different sources for different materials. This is what I use. It comes in different weights, and the weight depends on your application. If it's a little beefier, use something a little bit thicker. I grabbed this. It's a little thicker than I would normally use for this. And it got so hard for me to hoop in a smaller hoop that I actually heat pressed it really quick, and that made it nice and easy to hoop. You can find this at online craft stores, fabric stores, whatever. It's the same stuff that you may or may not have seen on people's couches in the past. So that's how the process basically works. So I have a file.
Do you happen to know what the gauge of that is?
No, I don't. I know they come in all kinds of different gauges, and I can't apparently do this and talk at the same time. They come in all kinds of different gauges, and usually the gauge is shown by the color of the paper on the back. And if you know what I'm talking about, this happens to be the teal colored one, but it's a little thicker than the one I like to use. Or maybe this is the orange that's thicker. I don't know. It's late single digits or early double digits in gauge. So it's like 9, 10, 11-ish, 12-ish, something like that. And it doesn't matter too much. What it really tends to matter is the higher your stitch count for your border, so the tighter, not higher stitch count, the tighter your density, the faster you're going to punch through the fabric being vinyl. So if it's the thinner stuff, it can begin to flop out and cut out of the vinyl before you're ready to be done.
Yes.
And that's when it's a problem. So I tend to go a little bit thicker, but too thick, and it feels like you're wearing Kevlar instead of a patch. So there you go. I tend to experiment. It's called picnic table. Yeah, that Sounds a little thick, but it's a possibility. All right, back to the file. Got too many computer monitors going. So this is kind of what I did to set up. And I gave myself little vector backgrounds so I could see what I was doing. And I just did a bunch of little emojis. And I did them, honestly, as if I was going to do an applique. So I have a walk stitch. That is not the one I'm on, sorry. Center selection, there we go. I have a walk stitch, I have a tack down stitch, and I have a cover stitch. And then I have all the little bits that make up my design. And then the yellow is just the material. And right now, I am doing this on just a twill. And this is a twill that does not have pressure sensitive adhesive on the back of it. That tends to make me a little crazy because it gets a little gummy.
It does, yes.
It gets a little gummy. Now this has heat sensitive adhesive on the back of it. And to mimic the stability of these guys, I went ahead and pressed that woven performance.
Cut performance.
That. To the back of it before I ever started. And then I embroidered a bunch of them out. Now, with this, I just took my file with all the walk stitches and I removed all the tack down and cover stitches. I did that in the file so that on the ones where I had, sorry, I don't want to make you car sick, where I had pieces that were close to what would be covered, I wanted to make sure I had the room. So I left that there as a visual spacer for me. That is not something that I sew out when I'm sewing the main piece. So then, if you want, you can sew a ton of them out, and then you'll have all these guys out here. Again, I tend to cut them out, and a little bit of extra thread on that one. Pay no attention to the guy behind the curtain. And then, once I'm done with that, and I have these all set up, to mimic that merrowed edge, I will hoop up a piece of this vinyl, and hopefully this is still warm and flexible because it is a little bit thicker than I would prefer, but it's what was beside my desk when I came in this morning.
It worked good warming it up though.
It did.
It really got pliable.
If you don't have a heat press, this gets a little bit more difficult. You can do a lot of things with irons. Beware that polyester thread does tend to melt into a funny sheen if it touches the platen directly. But honestly, I've stuck this stuff in my car on a hot day and it has done enough to make it flexible and workable, and outside does the same thing. One question is the woven performance in Mark II? I don't know if they have something similar. The stuff that I'm talking about we got from Madeira. And then
comes in black or white.
the twill, that can come from a lot of different places as well. You can even get stitch effects, so it already looks like stitches, so you can kind of fill in and not have to do a lot of embroidery. Save time on the machine. So I have just this piece. You totally can't see it on camera, but it's clear. It's there. I'm going to put that in place, and then what I'm going to load to the machine, we saved this, yeah? That one is just the walk normal, which is the locator stitch, which is the same line that I cut those out on, the tack down, and the cover stitch. And so this should look very much just like a normal applique. It's no different really. The difference is I tend to embroider all the fabric first, cut it out, and then applique. So the only thing I'm dealing with this vinyl on is that simulated merrow edge, which is just a satin stitch running around the outside. So let's go back to here, and we will go to the machine. I have that off center for no good reason. I'm going to center that up. I could have done this in a 9 centimeter. I'm doing it in 12 just to give the camera a little bit more visibility to what's inside the hoop. And then I'm going to go to the color sequence. When I do applique, I typically do the first color, which is my locator, and then I do an applique command, and then the second color, and then I do another applique command. I tend to get a little bit paranoid, so I like the machine to stop after the tack down so I can look and see, did I really catch everything? Do I need to go back?
You bet.
Keep my fingers out of things as I'm sewing.
Yeah, trim
so
a
that's
little,
maybe, yeah, maybe it's sticking out too much. I need to trim it up a little bit before that cover stitch goes on. So that's how I tend to run with that. And then the last color, and I'm ready to go. And in this case, I'm doing everything all in black to make the edge black. You could do it in whatever color you want. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. So I'm gonna hit OK, and now it's over at the machine, and you guys need to see what's actually gonna go on. So I'm gonna go there and get out of your way, and then press the green button, and it's going to sew that locator stitch. And then it looks like it's sewn on absolutely nothing, which I think is kind of cool. But then I'm going to take one of these pieces that I cut out. I'm going to use a little bit of spray adhesive, again, far, far away from my machine, computers, all of that. Pretend I'm farther away than I am.
Yeah.
Have a little box down here. There we go. And then I'm going to place that right over there. Rub that into place. Yeah, that looks pretty good. And because this is circular, I don't really have to care about which way is up. If you had a shaped object, obviously you'd be lining that up. And Brenda is beating me to the punch. She asked, do I peel the vinyl off the back? Not yet, but yes, I will. All right, so I have that tacked down. That looks good. I'm gonna press the green button. It's gonna go back in. It's gonna sew that satin stitch around the edge. Or not. Ooh, didn't catch the bobbin. We'll try that again. All right, make sure that I actually have it the way that I think I do. Nope. Trimmed that a little short. My fault. Back that up and go. That's a little better. Trying to catch on to all the comments as you guys post them. So this is what I would do for a patch. It's just sewing that edge around there. I don't know. Yeah, it's a little too blown out from the light, and the grabber's in the way, so you can't see it that well. But all it is sewing a satin stitch around the edge. As it's sewing that needle perforation is going to make it really easy to punch through that vinyl. And Brenda's right, I'm going to peel it out of the middle so that I don't have extra vinyl on the inside of my patch. Now, I'm almost done with that. Other things you can do, I made a little backpack charm out of that. It's back to school season. You could do these as coming up trick-or-treat options. I bought these little lobster clips. They're kind of fun. Little lobster clips. I didn't even know that's what they were called until I went shopping for them. You can find them online. You can find them at your craft store.
Like
and then,
claw.
Yeah, like a claw.
Like a lobster.
And then I just trimmed up a piece of this cording, decorative cording, slid it through, and then glued two back to back with that loop. I made sure that the hook, the lobster, what did I say? Hook? Lobster hook?
Lobster hook, yeah.
Was not in the press when I did it, so it was sticking out the edge, and only these two were together, and I sealed two back to back with that heat-sensitive adhesive that I'm going to apply here in a minute, and it made a kind of nifty little backpack charm. All right, so this is done. Can I get you a better option? Maybe. Yes. There we go. Perfect. Wrong way. Everything's backwards. So there's that vinyl, and it will just pop out, no problem. And then you're right, I do come in and take the vinyl out of the middle. so that I only have vinyl underneath that edge. I don't want that anymore. It's going in. I do have a trash can. I am not just throwing stuff on the floor. I'm going to trim this up a little bit. And then the other thing that I'm going to add to this is heat-sensitive adhesive on the back of this. And we've got a link, or we have a page that we can post. Madeira has lots of options. If you look on their site for heat seals and laminates, is that what we said? And they have different weights. I use the different weights for different things. Depends on how aggressive you want that adhesive to be. So it comes on a roll like this, giant roll. They may have smaller packs, but this is what I had in my office, so it's what I grabbed. And then I tend to just cut a piece bigger than what I'm going to do. So he awkwardly slices through backing. And then I will make sure you have a piece of paper or something to adhere this to, because it is going to extend beyond that. I've got the adhesive going to the back. There's nothing there except the backing and the fabric and whatnot. I don't have anything else under there. I'm going to place that adhesive side down. And then there is a paper piece that is the backing for that. I'm just going to cover that up in case the glue moves, squishes out as it melts. I'm going to heat press this real quick. Instructions for heat and time are all in with that product and on Madeira's website.
I posted a link to the adhesive too.
And I think I glanced at a comment, but I'm trying to do two things at once and I'm not doing it well. I'll come back to that. It looks like somebody was doing this for magnets, which I think is super clever. So now, oh, awesome. I was not paying attention when I did that and I moved it. So I'm going to do that again. I only covered, and this is awesome, I only covered half of this because as I closed that paper it shifted because I was looking at the camera, not at what I was doing. Don't do that. But as it's still hot, I can peel it off that paper, and while it's still warm, I can pull the edges off to keep it nice and clean. And that gives you, I don't know if I can get the sheen just right. Let's try back over here. Bink. Nope, super can't do it, but I'm going to give it my best shot. You can see, well, you can definitely see how I only got half of it. There's the edge. But you can see how that edge gets nice and clean if I do that while it's still warm. That's the idea. And then all I did to make these charms is glue these back to back in that heat press again.
So there's a question about hats, and I believe putting patches on hats is what I'm taking that as.
Okay.
So it can be very, very hard to try and sew a patch onto a finished cap, right? You'd be better off to heat press it on.
You're dealing with a lot of distortion.
Yeah, it's curved. It's also a sphere, so you got a lot of stuff working against you. Some of our customers do it, but what they find is you kind of got to distort the walk stitch till it works on a certain style of hat, and then in a different hat, you got to go through the process again.
Yeah, and it's always trapezoidal distortion, and now, forgive me, it's tighter at the top.
It's, yes, because you're coming to a point.
It starts to come in a little bit because you start restricting movement, and it's coming in, and it's the whole thing.
Yeah.
So, and that's going to change depending on the style of hat. So that gets kind of super fun. Other options are, like you were thinking about, create a patch, use adhesive, and then use a cap press, which has a curved platen and a curved bottom piece to kind of hold that on. And now our camera's freaking out for a second. Sorry about that. It's got a curved platen and a curved surface, and they meet, and your cap needs to be right in the middle of that. What kind of adhesive would I use? The more aggressive one, the thicker one, definitely.
Yes.
And there, again, are different options on Madeira. But that's kind of all there is to it. And you can make these in any shape. You can really make, it's almost any shape you can do for applique. The difference is with applique, you can have an open end. Yeah. So this is like a weird hybrid between applique and foam. You don't need the density that you need for foam to cut it, but you do want to have all the needle penetrations all the way around the edge. So if you have to cap an end or something real quick to make sure that you penetrate around that, just make sure that you have that. Otherwise, you're going to have vinyl sticking out where you really don't want it. Travis says barge glue works great. I don't even know what that is, but it sounds really intense. All right.
I think we're good.
So I think we've covered, different ways of doing this, different applications for doing it. Hopefully we got a lot of your questions on how to create custom patches or how to use blank patches. And that's bad too, not plugged in. Sorry, guys. Thank you so much, and we will talk to you guys later.